And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers here for not the umpteenth time, but the 400th time. It's our 400th show. Happy anniversary.
Well, the same to you. It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It is.
They all laughed at our first show, and they've been laughing for 399 more.
Maybe they'll stop laughing today.
I hope so.
Well, today we're going to have the Chancellor of Higher Education for the state of Oklahoma, Glen Johnson. He was the former Speaker of the House. It's a wealth of information. Very interesting chap, and we'll get to it right after this.
Every day America uses clean-burning natural gas instead of coal or oil is a day of victory for our environment. That's why Chesapeake chose to explore for natural gas exclusively, and we've never looked back. Because natural gas burns twice as clean as oil or coal, and reducing carbon emissions to combat potential global warming is every bit as urgent as cutting our dependence on energy imports. As America's #1 driller of new gas wells, Chesapeake is moving fast to find untapped reserves of natural gas here at home. It's the right fuel for America's economy and the fuel for a clean air future. We just happen to be early to see it so clearly. Chesapeake, natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are pleased to welcome back for a second appearance on The Verdict the Chancellor of Higher Education in Oklahoma, Dr. Glen Johnson. Glen did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, where he attained the status of Phi Beta Kappa. He also did his law work at the University of Oklahoma. He's a former Speaker of the House in the House of Representatives here in the state of Oklahoma. He was the president of Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant for 10 years prior to becoming Chancellor of Higher Education. He has been honored as a member of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame just last month. Well, actually 2 months ago now, as this show airs. So welcome back, Chancellor. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Kent, Mayor.
All right. What's keeping you busy in your office this time of year?
Well, this is the time of the year we get ready to make our budget presentation to the legislature. We've changed our process a little bit this year. Normally, we approve our budget request in January before the start of the legislative session in February, but we front-end loaded that process this year and actually made our budget, finalized our budget in October, and we're going to have used the months of November and December, and we'll use January leading up to the session to take our request on the road, if you will, and we will be, when it's all said and done, make 16 stops at various campuses all over the state where we'll meet with legislators, business leaders, alumni, and others to bring our message about the importance of higher education to all of our stakeholders. We've had several meetings so far. They've gone very well, and of course we believe higher education is the engine that drives our economy. We've got a lot of good data in terms of the dramatic increases we've had in our graduation rates. We've increased over the last 8 years our percentage of students who have received degrees by 26%. So we're moving closer towards
26% more college degrees
over the last 8 years.
in
Yes.
8 years. That
That's
seems
right.
remarkable.
Well, it is. And of course, we're headed towards, we're below the national average in terms of the percentage of our citizens with degrees. So we still have work to do, but we're very pleased that we've made that much of a jump over the last
Well,
8 years.
congratulations on that to you and your predecessors. But how receptive is the legislature likely to be this year with such uncertain economic times?
Well, again, that's one of the things that we took into account, Mayor, when we started our budget work this year. Normally, if you look at what our new money requests have been over the last 10 years, they've averaged $130 million, $150 million in new money, $170 million. We sat down with the college presidents in August and started working on our numbers. We felt, and as September and October came, it certainly solidified that with the uncertain economic situation that we have, we asked the presidents, what number can we get to that would be the lowest minimal number to take care of our mandatory costs and our essential operational needs. We kept working on that number to where we got it to 80 million. And what we've done this year in light of the times that we're in, we have said that if the legislature will fund $80 million, $80.4 million to be exact, of our operational requests, we will pledge, and when I say we, all of the institutions and the state regents will pledge to freeze tuition and mandatory fees at this year's level. And so we've laid that out there, frankly, as a roadmap to get to a situation this year where we might be able to tell families and students that we will not have a tuition and mandatory fee increase for this coming year. We're hopeful we'll be able to achieve that. And again, we're just laying it out there. We thought it'd be important that we be proactive in this effort and cut down our requests as much as we could, and obviously still preserve quality and all of the important things that we have to do to deliver the great academic product that we do to our students.
It seems like a very effective approach to trying to get your message out, particularly first to your own constituents and then and to the legislature after that. Let me ask you this, nationally, will the freeze on tuition that you're contemplating agreeing with the legislature about, will that be the trend nationally?
Well, there are, Kent, some states that are looking at it, and again,
but aren't you ahead of the game
we
on
are,
that?
we are. And again, that's where we really want to be. And it's a situation where we've just looked at what the case has been the last few years. We still are a very affordable product.
Yeah.
We're third in the country in terms of affordability. But even with that, we understand that the increases that have had to occur the last few years in tuition and fees have worked some difficulties on our parents and our students. So we thought this year, if we could do this, it would send a great signal to families and to students that we want to put them first, and we want to, frankly, lay a roadmap and a pathway out there that would allow us to not have a tuition and mandatory fee increase.
Let me ask you something else you said that struck me, particularly based upon some numbers I saw nationally. Oklahoma is increasing by 26% the number of people attaining higher education degrees. Isn't the number nationally going the other way slightly? But
well,
isn't it going the other
actually,
way?
it has leveled off. The percentage nationally is 27.5%, and we've come up now to where we're at 22.5%.
But isn't it going down to 27?
It's actually made a slight decrease this last year. So that's all the more reason we need to do everything we can to provide access to college to more Oklahomans. All of the data is so persuasive. We recently looked at the 50 states, and the states that have a higher percentage of their citizens with college degrees to a state are the states that have the higher per capita incomes and, frankly, the stronger economies. And by the same token, conversely, the states that have a lower percentage of their citizens with college degrees are the states that have the low per capita incomes and the weaker economies. So we know where we need to be as a state. And our challenge is to and of course, I've been a member of the legislature. When you look at all of the needs that they have, and they've got many in healthcare and corrections, and certainly some very, very important issues. But our challenge is to make the case that there really is not a better investment that can be made in the future of our state than investing in higher education. And that's the challenge that we have. That's why we're starting early. That's why we're trying to trim our budget down. We also will be releasing a report that documents the efficiencies that we've made and the reductions that we've made in costs in the system, which will cover a variety of things, energy retrofits, fuel consumption savings, reducing FTE employees by attrition, and just a number of things that we've done, more use of the IETV classroom in order to achieve savings as we bring our educational product to our students. All those things to show that we're tightening our belt as we're making a request for a reduced increase as well.
I know there's some anxiety about our state's revenue coming in.
Yes.
But across the country, many states are in much, much more significant problems than Oklahoma. If you've corresponded with your other state higher regions, people saying California or on the East Coast where deficits are in the billions of dollars statewide, what are they going to do?
Well, again, and I've been on a national board for state colleges and universities, and frankly, some of them are very concerned. Some of them are putting together a request to the federal government for requests for funding. Others are making their requests known early to the state legislature. They're talking to private donors, and of course the problem there's with a general slowdown of the economy, there's going to be some difficulties with endowments as well. So there's a great deal of concern, and again, although we face a tight budget, I think if you look at it comparatively, Oklahoma may be fueled by what's happened in our energy industry. We may be slightly better than some states, and certainly we have a lot of safeguards in our state. Our state leaders have been very prudent and have built the rainy day fund, where when you do have times like this, that we've got a safety valve of funding that's available there, and our balanced budget efforts and all those things I think have set us in pretty good stead for a time like this. But it's as soon as we say that, I think we're looking at what could very well be a tight budget this coming year.
But it's so extraordinarily tight to the deficit on some of these other. As a former Speaker of the House, how do you approach the situation like states like California are facing?
Well, of course, from what I've seen, it looks like Governor Schwarzenegger is looking at having discussions with Congress and others about whether or not there may be an effort to help the state of California. You know, again, that's a well that you can't go to indefinitely, and I'm not sure what the response will be there, but a lot of them are looking at every resource outlet available in an effort to say we need some help. We may need some help in the short term, but nevertheless, it looks like some states feel like they're in an emergency situation.
Glen Johnson is a Chancellor for Higher Education for the state of Oklahoma. Kent and I'll have more with him on our next segment of The Verdict right after this.
From the first grade on, I knew I wanted to be an artist. That's all I ever thought about. I approach it much different than the normal weaver in that I look at my warp yarns, which are your base yarns, as a palette. That gives excitement to the cloth because you never know what you're going to get. I'm sure it's something I feel, not something I talk about a lot, the spiritual aspect of it, but it is there, it's below the surface, and it's guiding me. I feel very blessed to be a Chickasaw. I feel like I have just been given this heritage. It gives me a whole reason for doing the beadwork patterns in my weave structures. Seeing the Chickasaw tribe fostering art, using art, and how valuable it is to the tribe is inspirational. And the creative thought, you know, it's in business, it's in economics. It's what gives us meaning, it's what gives us depth. It's what makes us see the beautiful of the world.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma Realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a plug nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Welcome back to The Verdict. We're visiting with Glen Johnson. He's the Chancellor for Higher Education in the state of Oklahoma.
Chancellor, tell our viewers about how many colleges and universities report to the Regents.
Okay. Kent, we have 25 public colleges and universities in the state that report to the Oklahoma State Regents for higher education. We have our two research universities, University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University. We have 11 of the regional universities in our system. They are four-year regional institutions. Most have both master's degrees and some offer professional degrees, optometry, pharmacy, just as an example. And then we have 12 of our two-year community colleges. These colleges are geographically situated around the state. They have open admissions, and really they're the backbone of our system. So we're proud of our three-tiered system, and it works very well and serves 237,000 students in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow. You got something going on I want to learn more about. It's the Campus Life and Safety and Security Task Force. Fancy name. What does that do?
Well, in the aftermath of the tragedy at Virginia Tech in April of 2007, Oklahoma was the first state. Governor Henry appointed this task force and asked me to chair it to look, frankly, to survey where we were, not only in higher education but in career tech, as far as our preparation in the event of a tragedy or an emergency like Virginia Tech. The task force started meeting that spring. In fact, President Roger Webb at UCO had the first national summit after Virginia Tech in Oklahoma about 3 weeks after the tragedy, and we have since made that an annual meeting that's been attended by over 56 institutions all around the United States. But basically, we were charged with the responsibility of seeing where we were and then making recommendations on areas where we could improve. We submitted our initial report to the governor last January, and he thought our work was important enough to continue the task force through 2010. So we're in the process now of gathering information for our second survey. Essentially, what our recommendations include, that it's important to have a base level or minimum level of notification procedures in the event of an emergency on every campus. And many campuses have already either fully implemented or in the process of implementing those notification procedures. They are varied, they're multiple. Some deal with email notifications, other deal with more of a campus-wide alert system, but to implement those and certainly to have those funded. Additionally, we found out from our survey information that we needed even more coordination between local campus officials and local law enforcement. And so there has been an effort to upgrade and to increase the training there, training specifically on campus for those rapid responders, those that have specific responsibilities the minute an emergency situation occurs. We've already had several campuses that have conducted live shooter on campus scenarios where they actually go into that mode, and just as you would with a fire drill, you walk through and each person who has responsibilities executes those responsibilities.
Well, I know each campus has some level of security or police force on its own, and then I assume at some point they would ask the municipality's police force, for instance in Stillwater or Norman, ask those people for help?
That's exactly right. And what we learned from this, the level of interaction and cooperation varied greatly from campus to campus. And so we've put together some minimum standards that coordinate those efforts more, have more check-ins, and frankly have more overlapping responsibilities where each know exactly what the parameters are of what they need to be doing when the emergency occurs. And that's been very productive and very, very helpful. The other thing that we learned is we need more counselors, both from a preventative standpoint before an emergency occurs, but certainly in the aftermath of an emergency. And we've worked closely with Homeland Security. We've had 3 or 4 seminars where we bring in those on our campuses for discussions and seminars with Homeland Security. They are actually making our budget request for these items to the legislature this year. So that relationship has been very good, and certainly working with them has helped us begin the procedure that we have to establish best practices in this area, and they've been extremely helpful. So we have a good game plan. A number of institutions are way out there in front as far as implementing what they need to do, and others are coming along well. We're pleased with the progress. I think the governor and the legislature are pleased that we've been very proactive, and Oklahoma really jumped out there first and indicated that we want to be prepared. Certainly what happened at Virginia Tech on another campus is it's unspeakable, but you need to be prepared in the event that something like this could happen on any campus in our state in the future.
Who are the other members of the task force?
We have my co-chair is Dr. Phil Birkenbeil, the director of our career tech system. And then from there, we have representatives from both Oklahoma State University, the University of Oklahoma, representatives from our regional and our 2-year colleges, several superintendents of our career tech system, and then a number of campus law enforcement officials, representatives from our mental health agency, Commissioner Terry White, Colonel Pettengill, the Director of Homeland Security in Oklahoma. And so we really have all the players at the table that frankly has assembled a very effective task force, and one that will be meeting for the next 2.5 years to get our state where we need to be in this critically important area. When you get down to it, if our campuses are not safe and secure, that's got to be a priority, and certainly that has been our priority as soon as the governor appointed the task force.
You mentioned earlier 25 campuses. How many of those are growing, and are you seeing trends toward urbanization, or are the regional campuses doing well? What can you tell me?
Well, it's our 2 research institutions have experienced significant enrollment growth over this last decade. At the regional level, there has been growth. It's not been as extended, and at the 2-year level, there's been more growth as well. Overall, we've had approximately a 10% increase in enrollment system-wide over the last decade. In fact, we're at a point now where we're in the top 10 states in the country as far as percentage increase in enrollment, which is where we want to be. But to answer your question, at the research level and the 2-year level has been where we've experienced the largest percentage of growth.
And to be clear, the career tech system, is that separate from what you look after, or is that part of it?
It's separate. It is a separate system, although we partner in many key areas. This task force on security is one example. Another great example, we have entered into what we call cooperative alliances with all 27 career tech centers in the state. And we're in a position now where at every career tech center, students there can take courses for college credit, which is just a great program. It's one that gets those students in the pipeline realizing that they can get a college degree while they're in career tech. So we partner with career tech and frankly with Common Education in many ways. Our concurrent enrollment efforts with Common Ed, where students while they're in high school can take courses for college credit. Many students have 30 hours or more towards their degree before they ever set foot on the college campus under that program. So we're trying to do all we can to get students into that pipeline and into the mindset of understanding the importance of a college degree as soon as we can, and both of these efforts are good examples of that.
Let me ask you, looking forward the next 5-10 years, what do you think are the major opportunities for higher education in Oklahoma, and what are the major concerns you have for higher education?
Well, I think we've got an opportunity to continue to develop our efforts as far as linking higher education directly to the economy. Yeah. We just had a survey that came out a month ago, and it was the results were dramatic. It said for every dollar that's appropriated to higher education, $5.15 is returned to the economy. Wow. It indicated that this year higher education's impact on the state's economy exceeds $3.2 billion. In the construction industry alone, just as far as construction projects in higher education, 24,000 new jobs were created as a result of that. And the survey projected that over the next decade that our impact on the economy will exceed $26 billion. So certainly we believe that higher education is a great investment in the future and in the people of this state in the future, where we will create the leaders in science and business and government and every field of endeavor. We feel strongly about that. I think probably as we go forward, one of our goals is going to be to link even closer our relationship to economic development. Oftentimes, if you look at what the state's priorities are, it's to improve education and to strengthen the economy and create jobs. And I think we can say that there's not an entity that can do that quicker or more comprehensively than higher education. So we want to solidify that effort even more. We want to provide access to students to college where they can get their college degree, and when they do that, of course, that will in turn also increase our per capita income and further strengthen our economy.
That's going to have to be the final word.
Okay.
Chancellor, thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kent.
Chancellor
Mr. Mayor.
Glen Johnson. And Kent and I'll have a final word right after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Some website information on higher education, okhighered.org, and our website, theverdict.tv. Thanks to Chancellor Glen Johnson. For Kent, I'm Mick. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.